Okay, so I don't know if you've heard about what's actually been happening in Texas, but there's a big situation that might result in a civil war. And this is a very, very complicated situation. And Joe Biden is trying to get in the middle of it, which is not good for the federal government. And it's also not good for the government of Texas. So, what is actually happening is that Joe Biden is allowing so many migrants that are illegal to come through the border without being processed, in which results in higher crime rates and a I would say a very bad situation for the government of Texas, because now they have a bunch of people that are undocumented causing harm to the people that live there, and also causing havoc for the people that want to actually continue their lives, normally. Because now they have a bunch of people that are undocumented causing harm to the people that are living there. What they're doing is they're not going by any of the laws that we have set forth, because they don't care. They really don't care. They got in here illegally. They can't get deported because they're not even found. They're killing our people. It's a disgusting thing all around. So this is exactly what's happening in Texas, because of course Texas and Mexico share the same exact border. What Texas did is said, no, we're going to put up wire that has signs on it. And if you touch the wire, you're going to get poked. We're going to put our National Guard there. We're going to make sure that the border is actually protected. And then the government of the United States, Joe Biden, says, no, you cannot do that. That's the federal government's job. So then Texas asks the federal government to then help with the border. And the federal government says, no, we're not gonna. Because we don't want to do anything. So that results in this whole entire fiasco of thousands and thousands of people coming into the border. Obviously, Governor Abbott, which is the governor of Texas, is trying to do things over there. And the government said, no, we need to take down your wire fencing, because we need to have the right to go to the border whenever we want and stuff like that. Governor Abbott said, no, you're not going to take it down. So this went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court justices ruled in the favor of Joe Biden to take down the fencing that is protecting Texas citizens. This means that Texas does not have the right to protect itself, and that's disgusting. That's not constitutional whatsoever. The Supreme Court really should relook at the case, open their eyes, look in the mirror, and say that they're disgusting people, number one. Number two, they need to sit here and say, no, I'm going to actually be grounded in truth and reality, not just because of the fact that Joe Biden wants me to do whatever at this very moment. That resulted in Governor Abbott actually having a letter to the Biden administration and posting it on Twitter, which then resulted in him getting 57 million views on this letter. Everybody was talking about this letter, and actually 25 governors actually endorsed Governor Abbott and said that they are on the same page as Governor Abbott with the letter. Very, very interesting stuff here. We're going to be reading the letter. So, the federal government has broken the compact between the United States of America and the states. The executive branch of the United States has a constitutional duty to enforce federal laws protecting states, including immigration laws on the books right now. President Biden has refused to enforce those laws and has even violated them. The result is that he has smashed records for illegal immigration. Despite having been put on notice in a series of letters, one of which I delivered to him by hand, President Biden has ignored Texas's demand that he perform his constitutional duties. President Biden has violated his oath to faithfully execute immigration laws enacted by Congress, instead by prosecuting immigrants for the federal crime of illegal entry. President Biden has sent his lawyers into federal courts to sue Texas for taking action to secure the border. President Biden has instructed his agencies to ignore federal, state statutes and mandates the detention of illegal immigrants. The effect is to illegally allow their en masse patrol into the United States. By wasting taxpayer dollars to open Texas's border security infrastructure, Biden has enacted illegal immigrants away from the 28 legal entry points along the state's southern border, bridges where nobody draws, and into the dangerous waters of the Rio Grande. Under President Biden's lawless border policies, more than 6 million illegal immigrants have crossed our southern border in just 3 years. This is more than the population of 33 different states in the country. This illegal refusal to protect the states has inflicted unprecedented harm on the people all across the United States. James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and all the visionaries who wrote the United States Constitution foresaw that states should not be left to mercy of a lawless president who does nothing to stop external threats like cartels smuggling millions of immigrants, illegal by the way, across the border. This is why the framers included both Article 4 and Article 4, which promises that the federal government shall protect each state against invasion, and Article 1 and 10, Clause 3, which acknowledges the state's sovereign interest in protecting their borders. Arizona v. United States, 567 U.S. 387, 419, 2012. The failure of the Biden administration to fulfill the duties impacted by Article 4 and 4 has triggered Article 1 and 10, Clause 3, which reserves to the state the right to self-defense. For these reasons, I have already declared an invasion under Article 1 and 10, Clause 3, to invoke Texas's constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. The authority is the Supreme Court of the land and supersedes any federal states to the contrary. The Texas National Guard, the Texas Department of Public Safety, and the other Texas personnel are acting on that authority as well as state law to secure the Texas border. Now, like I said before, the Supreme Court said that Texas needs to remove its border that is actually protecting Texas. Now, because of this, the federal government is now trying to go in and remove that border forcefully. So, what Texas is doing is sending its National Guard there and a bunch of its citizens to just stand the line. Stand right on the border and say, over my dead body, you will go through this and destroy what we have put forth to protect our great state of Texas. So what's the federal government going to do? They can, A, send in the military to kill the United States citizens, which will result in a civil war in which I will be fighting. Number 2, do nothing, in which would be the best case for Joe Biden, even though he's a senile old man that will be dying any day now. Or number 3, I don't even know what the third option would be. Do nothing or do something, and that something will result in a civil war. So, I mean, there's very, very big situations right here. Obviously, we could have a civil war right now. I will fly down to Texas tomorrow and fight in that war. Now, I'm saying that because of the fact that it's very, very important for us to have borders in America. It's very, very important for the sovereignty of this country that we have borders. And it's very, very important for the longevity of my life that we have a safe and protectful United States. A state or a country without a border is not a state anymore. It's just a mush with the rest of the world. We need to have borders, and we need to have them protected. Joe Biden needs to wake up and face reality right this second. Now, like I said at the beginning of this, I saw that 25 other governors have already agreed with Governor Abbott's letter, and they're actually responding to it. So 25 Republican governors band together to support Texas in the fight to secure the border. This is an article from the Daily Wire. 25 Republican governors from across the country released a joint statement on Thursday afternoon expressing support for the state of Texas as it fights to secure its own border. The statement comes as the Biden administration is fighting to stop Texas from securing its borders and preventing millions of illegal immigrants from flooding into the state. The governor said that the United States Constitution says that the states have the right to self-defense, and that since the Biden administration has obligated its constitutional compact duties to the states, Texas has a very legal justification to protect the sovereignty of our states and union. The signatories on the statement include Governor Ron DeSantis, Governor Brian Kemp, Governor Kevin Stitt, Governor Greg Grensfort, Governor Lo Lombardo, Governor Kim Reynolds, Governor Chris Sununu, Governor Kay Ivory, Governor Mike Dunleavy, Governor Sarah Sanders, Governor Brad Little, Governor Eric Holcomb, Governor Jeff Landry, Governor Ted Tate Reeves, Governor Mike Parson, Governor Jim Pillen, Governor Doug Burgum, Governor Mike DeWine, Governor Henry McMaster, Governor Christy Noem, Governor Bill Lee, Governor Spencer Cox, Governor Glenn Youngkin, Governor Jim Justice, Governor Mark Gordon. So, the only Republican governor in the country who has not co-signed the statement was Vermont's Phil Scott, which Vermont is like, come on now. Phil Scott, sign the letter. Stop, just stop, okay? Wake up, look in the mirror, say that you're a pathetic little man, and sign the bill. That's what I say. So if you don't sign it right away, you're just pathetic. That's what I say. But, you know, what is better than actually signing the letter is making a video about it and explaining why everybody else should be supporting Texas in this right. So, without further ado, we have Governor Ron DeSantis, which is hands down the best governor that we could ever have in America and would have made a really, really good president, by the way. But it's okay because now we have Trump. We have Trump, and like we have seen before in 2016, we're going to get a lot of things done. We're going to get gas prices down. We're going to have zero wars. And it's going to be a really, really good time. So either one of these people, Governor Ron DeSantis or former President Donald Trump, would have been a very, very good fit. President Trump was ruthlessly attacked this presidential cycle. Obviously, a lot of people are going to be standing by his side. I think that this is going to make sure that Ron DeSantis does what he does best and governs Florida. Now, obviously, he's going to be out of office next year, which is very, very sad to see Governor Ron DeSantis out of his governorship, and I wonder who's going to take over Florida in the governorship. But I don't think Ron DeSantis is going to go anywhere. I think he's going to end up going back into the Senate if that's possible, or going into Congress. He should continue to be a politician because it's really, really nice. It's really nice seeing him in the political sphere, unless what he's going to do is he's going to step out of the political sphere and then come back in 2024. So I just don't know if that's possible, if he could do that or not, because that'll be very interesting to see. And it's actually very, very nice to see that Ron DeSantis is not resorting to scripted videos. It's just him in his car being honest about the situation that's happening in Texas. I saw a lot of people that are actually very appreciative of the fact that he's doing that.
Biden is going after Texas, saying that they must remove fortifications from their border. They've put wire, they put things to keep people out. Biden's saying you got to take that down to let people come in illegally, which is just crazy. And I remarked that if the Constitution was originally understood to mean that a state could not protect itself against an invasion, that the federal government could force a state to allow an invasion, the Constitution would have never been ratified in the first place.
It wouldn't.
Texas would have never joined the Union when it did. And if you look at Federalist 46, which Daniel Horowitz pointed out, James Madison talks about situations where federal encroachment can be mitigated by state action. So you have Texas here that's holding its ground. They have every right to fortify the border vis-a-vis an invasion, and that's Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. So they're in the right. You also have a situation where liberal jurisdictions over many, many years have been sanctuary jurisdictions against enforcing federal immigration law. So you'll have somebody who's a criminal alien, they will not be given over to ICE, and they will deliberately act to frustrate the laws on the books, and somehow that's viewed as okay. You have Texas, who's acting to enforce the laws on the books, to ensure that they have a secure state and that we have a secure country. So all of this is just nonsense what Biden's doing. Texas has every right to stand its ground. In Florida, we've been sending people to help for many years now, because we understand it's not just a Texas issue, it's ultimately an American issue. And if we don't have sovereignty in this country, then we're not going to be a country anymore. So they have every right to hold their ground, to stay the course, and Florida will continue to be there helping out every step of the way.
Yeah, and as they should, because it's very, very important for Texas to stand its ground, because not only is Texas supporting itself, Texas is also supporting the rest of the United States, because it's not just happening in Florida. It's happening in LA. It's happening in Massachusetts. It's happening throughout America. So this is exactly what's happening, and that we're seeing even in the states that are not even next to Texas. Let's just take, for instance, this video that I saw the other day of Boston Logan Airport, where a bunch of people are being kept inside of the actual airport because of the fact that Maura Healey does not have any space to put them anywhere else. And it's just disgusting that Maura Healey decides to put them inside of our airport, which is just stupid.
They're currently sleeping on the floor while being housed inside Boston's Logan Airport. In a video going viral on Twitter, you can see rows of families, many with small children, camped inside Terminal E. A WBZ News reporter asked Governor Maura Healey about the situation at a press conference.
The airport's been a wonderful partner, and I really want to thank the folks at the airport for the tremendous job they've done, including members of the state police who are working their regular shifts, but who are managing the inflow and outflow of folks from the airport.
Governor Healey has asked for
That's not even an answer of the question. She avoided the question entirely, and she should be ashamed of herself. Like I said, for all of the other people that have disappointed me today, look in the mirror, Maura Healey, say that you're a disgusting human being, and change your attitude right this second, because it's disgusting. It's disgusting that you think that it's okay to store migrants that are illegally coming into this country and being shipped into Massachusetts, keep them in the airport. Look how much money it's causing the taxpayer to pay.
Additional $250 million in funds to address the migrant crisis this year, while her office estimates the crisis could cost Massachusetts $915 million next year.
So almost $1 billion next year. Over half of $1 billion this year. All in all, we're almost paying close to $2 billion because we want to have illegal migrants or illegal immigrants into this country. Because Maura Healey is going to feel better about herself at night. This is disgusting. All of these people disgust me to the high heavens. It's just it's just so disgusting that people think that this is an okay thing to do. It's just stupid. I just can't. I can't deal with this. It's just way too stupid. Now, like we said before, this is what Governor Abbott is actually trying to do to stop immigration. And also at the same exact time, we are actually trying to protect America. Just like Governor Ron DeSantis talked about what he feels about the Texas situation, Governor Newsom has an opinion on the situation too.
They won't touch it. They don't want to solve this problem. They want to use it for political purposes. And again, I say this as a border state governor. No one has to introduce me to this issue. We're the largest port in the Western Hemisphere in the state of California. We live this. And I think it is a disgrace what the Republican Party is doing, what Donald Trump is doing. And this is hidden in plain sight. He sent out a tweet or some truth, whatever, saying, kill it. And these guys are so weak. It's so pathetically weak, this Republican Party. And the new speaker said, oh, yes, sir, what else would you like us to do? We don't care about America. We don't care about our freedoms and liberties. We care about politics exclusively at the expense of the American people, because all we care about is winning for winning's sake. That is shameful.
Okay, so at the same exact time, what are you going on about? You do realize that Texas itself is spending millions and millions of dollars every single year to protect its own state. You do realize that, right? So why would it be that Texas is protecting its own state, which is a Republican governor, by the way? So talking about dividing the nation, you're saying that Republicans are sitting here not doing anything about the border, but at the same exact time, Texas is funding its own border. Even though the United States government can do whatever they want to protect the border of Texas. Just like how they can do whatever they want to protect the border of California. But they choose not to. And then you're going to have the audacity to sit here and say that it's on Republicans? No, what the Republicans are doing is saying, listen, we have the border funding right here. Joe Biden, sign the bill. Sign the bill. All you have to do is tell your constituents on the Democratic side to sign the bill so we can get your Ukrainian funding, Israel funding, Middle Eastern funding, more broadly, I should say. But it goes directly to Israel, so there we go. And to protect Taiwan funding, and then the border funding. This is a package deal with the most 4 issues that are happening throughout the world. And this would be Joe Biden's key to actually winning the election. But of course, he does not want to fix the issue on the border. He does not want to fix anything because the leftists on his caucus, the leftists on his side are saying, no. Don't do anything. Don't concede. Don't team up with the Republicans. Don't get anything done. Why? Why don't get anything done? Because if you don't get anything done, that's just going to be one more thing that we can use against you when it comes to election time. It just does not make any sense. Joe Biden is signing up to do this on his own. Republicans are not. He is signing up to do this on his own. So, Governor Newsom, what are you talking about? Does not make any sense here. And you said that you know how it is as a border state. Okay, so why don't you think that Joe Biden should convince the people in Congress to actually pass the bill that Republicans have introduced to fix all of the issues at our hands? It doesn't make any sense just because we don't give you exactly what you want. Oh, well, we're not getting exactly what we want either, because all of our funding to Ukraine is going towards inches and inches of war. They're fighting over inches. It's just disgusting. On Christmas Day, Ukraine was fighting with their military over a couple of inches of land. That's disgusting. That's what we are funding in Ukraine. It's not about, oh, this is the territory for here, this is the territory. No, it's inches of land. Oh, we just gained inches of land. Whoa, inches of land. What are you going to do with the inches of land? This war in Ukraine needs to stop. It's not like the Israel conflict over here at all. It's about inches of land in Ukraine, and it's disgusting. With that being said, we're going to be moving into the media's takes.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
If you already know that Governor Ron DeSantis is in the right and Governor Newsom is in the wrong, then you might want to support companies that support your values. So that's exactly why I'm saying that you should use code NEWYEAR for 15% off my company, shopped@originalstudios.com. We have flasks like this that is a vessel for holding your common senses and common water. Or we have actual tumblers that you can store your coffee in. Or we have pillows, like I have shown before in prior episodes. Or we have sweaters, shirts, hats, cases, anything in between like that. If you do want to check it out, please click the link down below and support this channel if you do want to see more coverage just like this one. With that being said, we do have a Daily Wire article. We do have Trump wins New Hampshire GOP primary. So, former President Donald Trump won the first in the nation primary in New Hampshire on Tuesday night, beating his former United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley. The race was called as Trump leads Haley 53% to 45%, with 36% of the votes counted, according to the New York Times. Leading up to the primary, polls briefly showed that Haley was within striking distance of former President Trump in the state. The trajectory of the New Hampshire primary changed after Trump captured a strong win in Iowa caucuses last week, and Haley came in third place behind Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. The results from Iowa, combined with DeSantis suspending his campaign this week and endorsing the former president, further extended the former president's lead in the state. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, who endorsed Haley, lowered the expectations for her heading into the week after previously declaring that Haley could win in a quote-unquote landslide, which was obviously never true. CNN said that the exit polling it conducted in New Hampshire found that staggering 70% of the people who voted for Haley were not actually registered Republicans. So this just tells you right here, Nikki Haley is a Democrat. Nikki Haley is a Democrat. Nikki Haley is a Democrat. Now, I could not be more apparent, more abrupt, or more clear, precise. I guess all of those are the same exact words, but I'm just saying it in different words that all mean the same exact thing, if not very, very similar things. Nikki Haley is a shell of a Republican. She's not a real Republican. We do not want her to be the president of the United States. Like I said before, she's a Trojan horse to bring in all of the left-leaning politics into the White House. So, the remaining primary slate will favor Trump over Haley, who relied on independents, moderates, and secular voters to come into second place in New Hampshire. The second contest in Nevada, where Haley opted to not participate in the caucus and instead signed up to do the state's primary, where she will win no delegates, according to Politico. Trump repeatedly slammed Haley on social media as the results rolled in from New Hampshire. Quote unquote, this is Trump's words right here. Haley said that she had to win in New Hampshire, Trump wrote. She didn't. Delusional, he continued, later adding, she came in third last week and she just lost Nevada, which is up next. So, I completely agree. I don't like Nikki Haley. She's a shell of a Republican. I do not like her. There's a lot of things that I do not like about her. And if you do want to see exactly why I don't like her, and it's 2 minutes or less, I uploaded a video. Go check that out. I will link it down below. So we do have another. We do have another article from the Daily Wire. We have World Health Organization named for prostitute, quote, gender effing theorist to transgender health expert board. The World Health Organization established an expert advisory group on transgender health, seeking guidance from a transgender former prostitute who called the line of work empowering and an academic attempting to popularize, quote, gender effing as a critical legal theory. The WHO Guidelines Development Group on the Health of Trans and Gender Diverse People was established to facilitate the creation of guidelines aimed at increasing access and utilization of quality and respectful health services by trans and gender diverse people, and establishing health policies and gender inclusive care, and legal recognition of self-determined gender identity. Among the experts named by the WHO is Erica Castellanos, who wrote the WHO says is a, quote, trans woman living with HIV from Belize who resides in the Netherlands. Castinos, a former prostitute, is a member of the International AIDS Society, where he focuses on youth engagement in HIV activism. It also includes Florence Ashley, an assistant professor at the University of Alberta and former clerk at the Supreme Court of Canada, who the WHO describes as a trans feminine jurist and biotheorist whose work focuses on trans issues in the legal and healthcare systems. His most recent work is how to use, quote, gender effing as a strategy to resist gender governance. The WHO's decision to staff the board with radical transgender activists calls into question the organization's ability to objectively access the medical consequences of interventions that attempt to modify one's sex. It told the Daily Wire that its recommendations are always based on balancing and available evidence, human rights principles, consideration of harms and benefits, and inputs of end users and beneficiaries. The experts, however, are clearly out of the mainstream community and have no health expertise. Colentinos said that he became an expert in the field by being a prostitute, which doesn't make any sense at all. Quote, surviving mitigation, sex work, and homelessness. Okay, I hate when we're saying experiencing homelessness. You don't just experience homelessness. You know, this guy was not working. He was being a prostitute. He was just having sex with whoever he wanted, and then he goes broke because that's not an actual job. And then he's complaining that he doesn't have a house now. It seems like you chose that path, buddy. Colentinos is now engaged in various fields of activism, previously serving as a delegate in the Joint United Nations Program on AIDS on behalf of the Trans United Europe, a sex worker umbrella NGO for trans black people of color, BPOC, and migrants from the Global South. He also listed as an executive director of the Global Action of Trans Equity, an organization that calls itself a, quote, international advocacy group of expert organization focused on gender identity, gender expression, and sex characteristics. The organization's site explains that Erica's background is in sex work, issues, and HIV activism. Florence Ashley, another transgender activist who was appointed to the WHO's Guidelines Development Group, describes himself as metaphorically a blurg, which with flowers in their hair, and is the author of an article set to be published by the McGill University Law Journal titled Gender Effing as a Critical Legal Methodology, where he discusses ways to resist gender governance. Quote, gender effing is defined by its focus on the needs and experiences of those who, quote, F with gender. Resisting attempts at gender governance through laws and policies and practices. An abstract from the article reads before going on to the claim that the approach offers a rich and fertile approach for analyzing a social, political, and legal world in a inably marked by regimes of gender, and in doing so, steps on the path toward gender liberation. The 34-page article expounds on the approach through systematic means, namely sexually charged humor. The present article, as well as the several of the past writings I mentioned, include puns and jokes, many of them sexual, more than incidental. I would suggest that these are systematic elements are an expression of, quote, gender effing substance into the realm of form and style. The paper reads before explaining that the theory can be used to challenge academic standards, quote, for just as gender effing rejects, the politician's idea of gender must be policied. So does it reject the academia's idea of that writing, and it must be policied. The name of gender fucking itself, or gender effing itself, offers a challenge to dominant mores around sex and profanity. It offers dominant mores around sex and profanity? Yeah, that right there is a profanity. Him himself is a profanity. Ashley goes on to say, are sex jokes on not a celebration of scholaring effing? Is there not something particularly trans about sex jokes? The article also addresses transgender identification among youth, claiming regardless of whether youth know their gender well, nobody is better placed to navigate the world of a gender in their name. Only they can catch glimpses or glaze upon the shape of their gender masoch, whatever that means. Ashley goes on to apply his specific approach, writing, quote, under a gender effing lens, gender self-determination seems the only way to promptly account for all of the needs of the trans youth, including those who defy attempts at disseminating gender, disciplining gender. He also explains that the concept of gender effing is intended for those whose gender is an outrage horror, adoring a 7-dimensional tentacle, COCK. People whose gender oscillates so fast that it undergoes spontaneous fiction. You can't handle the truth of their gender, Ashley wrote. Ashley produced an extensive list of largely nonsensical terms that he used to refer to his gender, which includes words and phrases alien, alien bi, alien trashy gender, gender malconsent, deception, an unfathomable swirling void. Ashley, whose placement on the WHO advisory board sparked criticism online, has informed the WHO that he is unable to attend due to a conflict in schedules. Dr. Stanley Goldfarb, the director of Do Not Harm, a nonprofit organization dedicated to fighting the politicization of medicine, warned that the WHO's guide development group will likely ignore the increasing body of literature that challenges the basis of support in medical interventions intended to modify a person's sex. Quote, at the time when the European community is the midst of the great re-examination of the entire edifice of so-called gender-affirming care, it is indeed unfortunate that the World Health Organization has decided to enlist a number of gender activists to create a new guidance. Gloeb remarked, guideline formation should be the first based on a careful and comprehensive review of the medical literature. If this is done, these activists must come to the conclusion that gender-affirming care should be dramatically correlated, as has occurred in 5 European nations. Unfortunately, the World Health Organization's choice of individuals suggests that their present commitment to this activity will prevent them from approaching this problem in an even-handed and regulatory scientific approach. Goldfarb continued. But Castellanos and Ashley are just the two of the left-wing trans activists who the WHO placed on the guidelines development group. There are also 4 individuals associated with the World Professional Association on Transgender Health, WPATH, the organization that removed minimum age requirements for medical interventions, including pre-puberty blockers, cross-sex hormone therapy, and sex change operations from its medical guidance. 2 former presidents of WPATH, Walter Berman and Gail Knudston, who are included in the WHO's guidance development group. Critics of gender ideology have blasted the WHO over its guidelines development group, launching a petition called WHO Decides that objects to the based panel tasked with creating new transgender health guidance. Of the 21 panel members, over 3/4 of the transgender activists, the few physicians, either specialize in HIV or are gender doctors. The petition reads before adding, there is currently a worldwide explosion of teenagers wishing to undergo a sex change. WHO's stated plan to promote hormones and legal reconciliation of self-identified gender will harm immeasurable gender dysphoric youths, gays, lesbians, and other women. I mean, I completely agree with this. I mean, if people are really, really confused, like they said that they are confused about their gender, and gender is this constant flowing thing, and be with the force, man, and blah, blah, and peace and love, then how come we can sit here and say that we're going to do a surgery on you that you might regret later because of the fact that you might change your gender later? It's not even just common sense anymore. It's like in their own words. If you can change your gender for real, quote unquote, in their own words, obviously, let's just play the devil's advocate here. If you can change your gender, right, every single second of your life, why the hell would you say that this gender is your real gender, not something else? Let's just say if you said that you were a Z-Zer, how come you can't say that you're a Zar-Z? Huh? Later on, what if you cut off your body parts because the Zar said that you need to cut off your Zaza, and then you're smoking the Zaza because of the fact that Zar told you that you needed to? Like it doesn't make any sense. Number one. Number two, it sounds crazy. Okay, I don't know if we're living in the same world. Maybe you're living on planet Zar, smoking the Zaza with other people. But I mean, now that we're getting into the language of the left, it doesn't make much sense here. So let's just talk in English terms. If you are insane and saying that you are this arbitrary thing that you can change every single second, then how come you think that this very second is the gender that you are? How come you can't say for a fact, or how come you are not going to say for a fact that this is your real gender and not something else is your real gender? How do you know that 2 months from now, you're not going to say that you are another made-up thing, huh? Just because you're saying that you're this made-up thing now, it doesn't mean that in the future, you might not say that you're some other made-up thing. That's what is the most confusing about it, because based on their own words, they're saying that you can, quote-unquote, gender F your body and gender F the world and make sure that you're living your most authentic life, which doesn't make any sense, by the way, because your most authentic you could be you killing people. I mean, that it could be you constantly punching a body bag and constantly fighting in the UFC. Like, that's not your most authentic you, because you can't do that all the time. Your most authentic you is on your best behavior you, thinking in the most clear mind and making rational thoughts. That's your most authentic you. So when people say you need to be your most authentic you because you only live one life, then you only have to sit here and say, listen, this is all I have to say to you. My most authentic life is this very moment, because I'm not high, I'm not drunk. I can make rational decisions by thinking about the consequences of both my actions and what I'm thinking about before I actually do them. That's your most authentic you. So when you are under the influence, let's just say under these hormone therapy pills, that's not your most authentic you whatsoever, because you're being persuaded by other factors, whether they be external or they're internal with your doctors and your mom and dad. Not good at all. So that puts you down a path of failure. Like we say time and time again, the difference between Republicans and Democrats are Republicans need to sit here and have a backbone. Democrats have a backbone. Republicans do not. Real Republicans do have a backbone because they stand up for this country, but they get ran over, and then they get ran over, and then they back the car up, and then they say, did I run over something? And they're like, wait a second, no, I didn't. And they go forward again. They run over the same conservative over and over and over again until we're found that we predicted the future. With that being said, thank you all for watching, thank you all for listening, and I hope they have a great rest of your day. Bye.